Okay guys, we're back for one more tonight, and what we're going to focus on right now is actually creating the different view models from the list that is on the side of our calculator, that when we pop up the hamburger menu, we now want the list to come there, but that's must have changed for some reason, so let's fix that real quick. My apologies. Where is it? Okay. Just go ahead and make width 200. Alright, so oops. Now he's 200, which is half. Goes back. Good. Alright, so sorry about that. I should have had that already back done. Should have tested it, but I didn't. Okay, so now what do we need to do? We need a list box in here that has a list of all of the available calculators. Well, we can create a constant here, constant array or a static array, and we're just going to call it constants. And we're going to create a class, and it's going to be calculators. Okay, and it's going to be a static class. And public static string array, and we can say calculator types. First one, let's look and see what we called it here, just to keep things the same. The calculator is a basic calculator, so we can just call this basic. I need to learn how to. Okay. And the next one is going to be a scientific. Okay. So now let's see if we can get those to show up before we start looking any further. Let's go ahead and go to our shell. Let's go here. Let's just put a list box in here. Let's go ahead and say item source. Static. It's going to be constants, and it's going to be and let's just see what happens here. They show up, which is good. It's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so let's go back here, and what do we really want? Do we really want strings, or do we really want where we can have display names and so on and so forth? I kind of think we want display names. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our model, and we're going to add a class. We're going to go ahead and make this a calculator type. Okay. He's going to have two classes, or two properties. Both of them are getters. One's going to be display name. And the other is going to be type name. Okay, we can get rid of the setters. Don't need those. And we can add, with C#, or with ReSharper, you can say CTORP, and that will do all the things for you. Let's get rid of things we don't need here. Alright, now instead of string, we want this to be calculator type. Okay, a new, and actually even better, we can say create. Make this private set. Get rid of this. Well, we can leave that in. And we can say public static calculator type create string display name string type name. We can get rid of the private set again because we don't really need it, and we can just say return new calculator type display name type name. So now we can say calculator type dot create. This was basic, and this is basic as well. Calculator type we can say scientific. And this is actually basic calculator. And this may be the same. Alright. So, now we run it. And let's look and see what happens. I don't think we're gonna... Yeah, well, see, we did not work. And the reason is because we need to add this. We need to say display name is display name. Alright. So now well, we're gonna have to do a few things here. When we select this, we want to create our view model. So we no longer want to do this. So we run this and it doesn't work. And the reason is because we removed it. So, but when we click basic, we want to populate it here and close this. So let's do that. Alright, what I like to do, because it's a bad idea to pass your Unity container around, I personally like to create a new folder and have it called helpers. Okay, I'm going to create an interface in here and call this container helper. Okay, and it's going to be an iUnity container. We're going to call it container. But we don't want to do that. What we really want to do is get a type of T and call this create. Right? So now we just need a string and type name. So we're going to go ahead and create a new class, and that was the interface, so we want to rename this because we want to follow naming conventions. So now there's that. Let's insert a new class and go ahead and call this container. And he is going to be an I container helper. We're going to implement the missing members. Make sure we add it to our bootstrapper that we talked about, to our Unity config that we talked about. Container.register type. And actually, well, we don't want it here because it's register instances. So we want public static. Unity container, and we want to register singletons. Okay, it's going to be this Unity container. We're going to return container, and now we can say container.register type, and we want it to be a I container helper. Container helper. But what's different here is we want to say new container controlled lifetime manager. That is now a singleton. Let me add that in. And we also need to add that to bootstrapper as well. So now that's done. What we want to do, we want to get the type. So we're going to get the type. We're going to say assembly dot get executing assembly dot get types dot where or dot first or default. We're going to say x.name equals type name. Okay, so now we want to say if, and this should be single or default. Really? Okay. And we want to say if type is null. We want to throw an exception. Alright, sorry, I didn't have that, okay, so now we want to return container resolve. Pass our type in. And we get this, but then we need to cast it as type T. We also need to say where T his class or his new. May need to be a class too. Oh, and the reason it's giving us grief is because we didn't add that here. Okay, so now that goes away. And what we can do is in our shell view model, we can ask for an iContainer helper. Basically a wrapper, yeah, it stores it, we're not passing it around, and you know, it'll be okay. So what we can do now, we need to create a new delegate command that passes a type, calculator type. And we want it just to be a calculator changed. Command. Okay, so now we're going to go back here, and what we have to do here, we have to say XMLNS and I. This will be interactivity. Want this? So we can say I interaction dot triggers event trigger, event name, selection changed, I invoke command action. We say command, it's going to be binding to our command, and we want to pass a parameter of bind element name, and this will actually be this box, but we want to bind path selected item. Now when we go here, we're going to want to go ahead and implement this, and we want to say calculator changed. Let's go ahead and say we want to say var new calculator plus container helper. We need to add that. Create. So now we don't have the type T. So that creates a problem. Let's go back to here. and we can have it return an object instead of P. We can go to our implementation, get rid of this, and this, and this. We'll return an object now, and we just have to cast it. There probably is a better way. If you guys hear of a better way, I would love to know it. So please tell me. We're going to cast it as an iCalculator view model. We're going to say calculator type dot type name. Now we say selected equals new calculator. Okay, so now let's run it. We don't have the second type, so it should throw an error, but let's see what happens. First off, you notice we don't have anything here, but we hit basic, and it throws an basic calculator. And now the reason is we don't have a type name called basic calculator. We have a basic calculator view model. But we know we always want a view model, but we don't want to store that here. I don't think we want to. We technically could. Okay, we will. Alright, so now we should run it. We run it, and guess what? Our calculator shows up and works. Perfect. But what it didn't do that we wanted it to was we wanted to make it close the thing. Close the flyout. So we want to say flyout open equals false. And guess what? It did, which is perfect. Okay, so now what we need to do, let's go ahead and commit that and say dynamic view model working. Okay, so let's go here and let's go to view models and calculators, and let's create a scientific. Alright. So without anything working, we know it won't. We want to see what happens if we actually create it and we actually do what we're supposed to. So let's just do that. We have our label. We see that it's there. Let's go back to basic. We have our label. Let's go back to scientific, and we're doing exactly what we want. Great. So now let's do a few more things. What we really want to do is we want to create our view for our scientific. So we can go to styles, and we can go to calculators, and we can add a new scientific calculator. Okay. Implement that. And now I'm going to add a data template. Let's go ahead and say data type. I misspelled it. What it is we said we didn't add type. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to pull this back over. And we have all of these, which all do different functions and do different things. First things first, we have we really need to handle this for all of so we only have to handle it once. We click this, we have a flyout from the bottom, if you notice, with a list of current calculations. So if we just go back to standard and say 8 plus 8, we get 16. And then we do 9 plus 7, we get 16. We hit this, and we have a template of, the value on the bottom and the equation on top. And that's the same with this one. 7 times 8 and 8 times 9. We hit this, we have the same thing. So we want to do that as well, and I would like to handle it once for both of our views and all of our views from here on out. So what we can do is we can actually go here to our interface and we can add, we already have one. We have a collection of our calculations, and our calculation actually has an expression that we used and the value of it, which is exactly what we want. That is perfect. So let's go to our base and let's force everybody to do it, because right now we just have it here. So let's make it an abstract. So now we can actually override register collections. And we can say calculations equals new observable collection. We can make this a private set. And it'd be better if we made it protected step. Protected so the child classes can access it. Alright, so now we know that we have a calculations in every single one. What we need to do is we actually need to go back to our shell. Let's pin this so we don't lose it, and pin this so we don't lose it, and pin this so we don't lose it. So we want to add another flyout. We want the position to be bottom, and we want is open to be binding to flyout open. And this is a list box as well. That's going to be binding in the item source is going to be binding to our selected calculator dot calculations. Okay, and now what we want to do, every time we actually calculate, we want to add that to our calculations. So we want to add the result and the value to our the whole calculation. So we only want to write it once. So let's go to our base, calculator base, and have a calculate function here. So we need him to accept an iCalculator. We want it to be public virtual void calculate. And let's look and see how we did it here. Let's open our basic up. We have a calculate method here, and we have our expression here, and we have our has calculated. So, and we also have a command that is a equals command, right? And we have an add numbers. So it looks like we can probably add these. 1, 2 base. Okay. So it looks like we can do this. We can add that to all of them. going to make him protected. So now we have all of these. Basically our whole basic calculator class, other than the name. We don't really need this. We don't need this. You can get rid of these. And that's good. That's good. Now, when we calculate, we can actually say, we can get our expression. Okay, so now we have added our calculation to our calculations. And we can actually go here. What are we missing? We're missing something. Oh, we're missing our, that makes sense. We need a... Alright, so now what we can do, go here and here, and we want to add to our stack panel here, we want another button. Uh-oh, do you see what we're doing? That's repetitive. So let's not do that. Let's go ahead and say style, target type, do a setter. It's going to be a property with value. Setter, property, height, value 50. So now this is wrong for some reason. So that said, we can't do it that way. We're going to have to look at another way, which is fine. We can do that. Just do it on all of them. And then if we have to worry about it, then we will. That's good, that's what we want. Go back. Now, have a button style we can probably do this at. So we have this one. Has a background of white and the border thickness is 0, which I imagine we're going to do. We don't really need that, we'll just do it here. We're going to have a style. Well, we need to follow our pattern. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add a resource dictionary, and it's going to be menu buttons. Okay, let's go ahead and have a style, and we're going to have a key, and this is going to be a menu button. Okay, and the target type is a button. We're going to have the setter, property width, it's going to be 50. Setter property height 50. Setter property background value, it's going to be white. Here. And now we can just import that into our app.xaml. So they are both the same now, which is good. Alright, so now we just have to add our icon there. Let's go to Font Awesome and look for something like a clock, FA. Which is kind of similar back to what it was on the other one, only it has an arrow. I'm not going to look too long for this, so I'm just going to copy this. And let's go to our shell. Let's go ahead and click on him. And that's the flyout. We don't want the flyout. Oh, the flyout's on top. Okay. So let's say icon. And let's just say clock. I'm okay with that. What about back? That because I don't want to look too long for it. And now we run it, make sure it looks okay. It's a little too big, so what we want to do, make them 60. Might need to be a little bit smaller than that, like 55. That looks pretty good. And maybe a little too big. Alright, so let's make them 55. 50 was good, I think. We actually don't even have to set those. Build default. Alright. Now we want to pull that all the way to the right. Let's see if we can do that. I don't know if we can or can't. I will try. Alright. So we're going to change this from a stack panel to a grid. And we're going to go ahead and say grid row or column definitions. Column definition width is auto. Okay. See what it looks like. Looks pretty good. I'm not sure what that is right there. Oh, that's our okay, so let's go down here to this one. We don't want it to be flyout, we want bottom flyout. Alright, so now we have open flyout command, and we can actually add a command parameter. Pass in the name of the flyout, or name of the property. And now we can do the same here. Okay, so now we need to modify this a little bit. So now we want to say property set value, and we can just say true. This value is true. Okay, and now that should still work. So let's make this a little bit bigger. About half is what we did last time. It looks pretty good. Make it 200. So now let's see if it works. It should work. Let's create a calculation. 5 plus 5 equals. We broke. Calculations are null. I'm not sure how that's possible. Okay. 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 I think I know why. or null. He runs. We actually have a now calculation in there. All we need to do is bind to the we need to create an item source, don't we? Okay, so we'll do that now. Or we need to create an item template. List box dot item template. Those items. Grid. On a grid. Row definitions. Row definition height. Be auto. We want it to be star. No, auto's fine. Okay. And we just say text block, text binding. It's going to be binding to the expression. And now the text block, text binding value. Horizontal alignment is right. Horizontal alignment is right. Font size. P20. Font weight, bold. This is going to be grid.row 1. It is now there. So we want to add one more. It is now there as well. So that is great. That's working. Let's add a little bit of margin here. Have our margin. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so we're happy to see that. That's working. Looks like we're at about 2 hours, or an hour now. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now that we have that done. There is one thing I would like to do before we wrap it up, because if we open this up, the calculator, we open that up, you notice that it defaults to the basic. Oh, it defaults to whatever you were last on, I think. Well, we're going to make it default to basic because we're not going to worry with storage. So we're going to make it default to basic. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say our selected equals our container helper dot create. And we can go ahead and make this static. That would be bad to do. Let's go to our constants, our calculators, and we can make a public static. And we're going to go ahead and make this a basic. So now we can do this. Rather than doing that, we can say calculators and it would have been better just to do that. So let's do that. Now it should default to it, and it does. Alright, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for the night. I will commit this, and then I will post this video. You guys have a great evening.